I think artists are born, not made. I think I've always been an artist since childhood. I can remember rummaging around underneath my dad's table saw for little scraps and putting them together as sculptures. Hi, I'm Donald Gellinella. I'm an artist and a sculptor here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I developed from a very young age, and I was lucky enough to have a mentor. His name was Vincent Nardone, and he was a big force in my young development as an artist. I think that artists have to find their medium by working in all different disciplines. Different personalities gravitate towards different artistic mediums. With my personality, I'm sort of impatient. So metal works very well because it's forgiving, and I really found my forte when I started working with metal. My name Live Steel came from shows that I was doing that people would constantly comment, "These metal pieces look alive." Planning is an important aspect of making a large piece of sculpture, any piece of sculpture really, but it's more critical when it's a large public piece. I planned how to best maximize the head pieces for the fish on a sheet of steel. Here's a little sketch, a little thumbnail of how I was going to build the internal armature using these flattened ellipses. It's much easier to use an eraser than it is to use a plasma cutter and a grinder. The pencil is a very powerful tool at the beginning stages of a piece. I use Photoshop extensively. I'll take a photo of the work I've done during the day and then put it on Photoshop at night and fill in different things that I'm planning to do the next day. And I find it to be an invaluable tool for planning and for visualizing where the sculpture is going to go to in the next step. We're in the process of adding the skin to the fish, and we do it piece by piece. I usually sit down and contemplate a piece before I start working. It's kind of my morning ritual. These array of spots on the side of the fish kind of resemble the solar system. It's kind of another dimension that I didn't anticipate. These plates are repurposed transmission separator plates. They're usually considered scrap by the transmission guys, but I like the way they're perforated because it adds a sort of interesting translucency to the sculpture. This is where I get most of my material for my sculpture. I mean, look at this. It's a playground. It's a fantasy land for a sculptor. Chris, the guy who owns the place, he gets it.
I think it was a good idea to repurpose this metal for, whatever the purpose that you can have for it, either art or whatever, because everything gets scrapped and getting wasted a lot of times. I've seen Don's artwork, and I think it's awesome. And so do my wife. So. Somebody like Don will come over and make something out of nothing.
I couldn't be happier. Sometimes the pieces suggest the sculptures, and sometimes the sculptures suggest the pieces, but whatever. At the end of the day, it's all good.
A lot of people don't look at scrap metal as something that could be potentially beautiful, or even something that could look like they could crawl away and be alive, just show intricate little things that we don't really pay much attention to.
In this disposable world, like taking things and actually making them into beautiful things, that's another thing that I think is just so amazing. Repurposing, and like the metal that we're using here, it's not coming from just a raw roll of steel. It's coming from actual parts that would have found their way to the landfills.
I go through different phases where I make smaller work and I make larger work. I'm sort of in a large scale piece phase right now where I'm doing a lot of public work, and they're monumental type pieces, 10 and 12 feet tall. I also got a grant to do a piece for the Orange County Administration Building lawn in Orlando, Florida. That was a large sparrow, a giant sparrow, which I called Dream Sparrow because it came to me in a dream, the idea to do a small, innocuous songbird in a huge, enormous scale. I feel very gratified that my cow sculpture that's going to the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital is going to have a very positive effect on the children, because other pieces, smaller pieces I've done in the same toy assemblage technique have fascinated kids whenever they've seen it. Using repurposed materials in my art makes me feel closer to the process of recycling. The community is drawn into the dialogue of what it is to recycle and to repurpose objects and to be more responsible in their use of materials. My attitude towards the future is very positive. I see my work being placed in more public institutions, more public spaces to be enjoyed by more people. I want to be more visible as an artist. It's good to get your work out there in public. And I'm still waiting for the day when a delegation from the Museum of Modern Art walks into the studio. I'll know it's a very auspicious occasion.